and welcome to Giant Mess, a sloppy sports and entertainment talk show that covers New York Giants football, Mets baseball, movies and TV shows with some funny stories mixed in for good measure. It's hosted by a Giant Mess. That's me, the real cinch, Neal Lynch. On today's episode, we're going to talk Giants. The New York Los Gigantes de Nueva York football Giants. Get all those keywords in. They've clinched a playoff berth. First time in 6 years, kind of a big deal. So we'll quickly recap the game that I missed over Christmas. I didn't give you my recap of the Vikings, so it was real quick give you my thoughts on that. We'll recap the playoff berth clinching win, a blowout victory over the Indianapolis Nopes, or Colts, if you will, and talk a little bit more about the playoff picture. Playoff scenarios. Giants clinch the 6th seed. Who's going to get that 7th seed? Who'd you rather face, the San Francisco 49ers or the Minnesota Vikings? And what craziness could happen in Week 18? Is it Week 18? A lot of crazy stuff happened recently, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it. And then I guess we could preview the Eagles game. It could go one of two ways. We'll break that down. So without further ado, let's get into the show. So right off the top, I'm recording on Tuesday evening, January 3rd. It's the night after Monday Night Football, the Bills-Bengals matchup, where Bills safety Damar Hamlin collapsed on the field and was rushed to a hospital. 42 years old. I've never seen anything like that in my life. It was just harrowing from top to bottom. You know, seeing the expression, the reactions of a lot of the players on the field who have gone through and seen way more than I ever have on a field, not including that traumatic event. And then, you know, to see that, to see the way that they reacted, you knew it wasn't great, wasn't good. And it was eerily quiet. I think the fans kind of knew what was going on. The broadcasters took on a different tone. And, I don't think they wanted anyone to panic or lose their minds. And so they kept information kind of at bay for most of that broadcast. And turns out it was a freak thing. You know, it was, he gets hit. From what I understand, he gets hit. It was the timing of the hit, the impact of the hit, and that resulted in a cardiac arrest, or there's a Latin expression, which I can't remember right now, commodio cardis or something like that, where, it just happened to sync up with the rhythm of the heartbeat, and it caused his heart to stop. And of course he faints, falls to the ground, and really knocks his head hard against the turf. And they worked on him for 9 minutes CPR. So kind of hit close home for me because, I did lose my father to cardiac arrest when he was 56. I was 25. It had a very profound effect on me then and continues to this day. I constantly think about legacy and, every waking moment trying to push towards, something that will leave a mark on this earth, on this life. And crazy to see that it can be taken away that quickly and that randomly, it feels like, healthy dude, athlete, from everything that we've seen, a great kid who did a lot for this community. And it's good to see that his charity, the toy drive, has crossed like $5 million in donations or something like that. So, we're not all bad, us humans. But, with my father, it was, an electrical thing, I guess, in the heart, right? Something that just kind of short circuits there. And, he didn't have the benefit of a team of trainers, medical personnel, and first responders, right there to kind of help him out in the moment. And so I think the window to save him had passed. And I guess they worked on him for a fairly decent amount of time. But anytime it's like you're doing CPR or AD for 9 minutes, it's like, your probability is not great. But from what I've seen and heard across social media and across news reports, sounds like he's doing better, still in critical condition, but 50% of his lung operations are on his own, is what I saw. That's up from 10%, so that's positive in the right direction. But apparently a lot of lung damage, which I would assume is, from not working on its own for that length amount of time. So, you can see me, I'm kind of I don't look the best right now. And that's, I just weighed on me, and I weighed on a lot of people. We just want to make sure, it was tough going to bed not knowing what his status was. And, Skip Bayless puts out that tweet, and, he gets dragged for it pretty big time by everyone. Shannon Sharp doesn't even show up to Undisputed because he was so disgusted by it. A lot of people coming after Skip Bayless, and I'm not a Skip Bayless fan. It was a poorly worded tweet. I think the point of the tweet was like, first and foremost at the top of your mind is the health of Damar Hamlin, making sure that he's okay. But this is unprecedented, and so I think a lot of people, that is a question in the back of a lot of people's heads and minds, was like, well, where do we go from here? Like, how does, obviously they made the right choice and to not continue the game. Kind of weird that it took them that long. It seemed like pretty much everyone was on the same page. Like, you can't play this game. That's crazy. Like, players just witnessed something that is going to affect them for the rest of their lives. And to have them kind of go about their biz, and play 100% full contact football after witnessing that, I don't think anyone could really do that. So they made the right move there, and they're not going to resume the game this week. I don't know if they will ever resume the game. So it'd be interesting to see how, you'd be lying if you didn't ask what happens here. Because this has never happened, and so that people are curious, not just about Hamlin's health and him pulling through, which I hope he does. I'm not the praying type, but there is a certain power to prayer, you could say. I think people with that much positive energy, there's and this is what I've been struggling with forever, having depression, anxiety, is like the power of positive thinking, right? You think it, you visualize it in a positive frame mindset, and in all likelihood, you put out that kind of positive energy, and good things there's a higher likelihood that good things are going to happen, right? Whereas I can't get my head out of this toxic headspace and this gutter that it's been in, and it's like, well, what is it? What is that called? You fulfill your own fate. You know what I mean? You've already fulfilled your own fate. That kind of thing, where it's like it's already predetermined, so why try, kind of thing. And it's like, if you're not thinking positively, then you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. And I think having all this positive energy certainly has benefited the family, to keep their spirits up, and and it's just, I don't know, good vibes, positive vibes, prayer, whatever you got, hoping for the best. I think that's, it's better than thinking of the worst. So we'll see. I think he's gonna pull through. I have a good feeling about it. I did not have a good feeling about it the night of. Apparently there was a Lions receiver, Chuck Hughes, in 1971, who died on the field. That was from I want to say a blocked aorta or some kind of heart valve, like 75% blocked, and apparently all the medical professionals missed it or misdiagnosed it. And so that was in the fourth quarter of a Bears-Lions game, with the Lions driving down by 5. And they actually finished the game. there was like a minute left in the game, and they ended up finishing it. And apparently the crowd was just stunned silent, which makes sense. And I saw there was another case, another Lions player, I think it was a linebacker, went down, collapsed on the field in 96, which is weird. I was probably 15 at the time. I don't remember that, but they brought the ambulance out on the field and took him away. And I don't know if they finished that game. My assumption is yes. I don't know that this has ever happened where, you just suspend a game and it doesn't continue. But it was the right move by all accounts. So, very curious to see how it plays out. If I'm the NFL, maybe just push everything back a week. Apparently they're going to play week 18 as is, and life goes on, and they're going to play the games that are scheduled for week 18. Does that mean you push the playoffs back and then like the Bills and Bengals play a one-off in week 19 to finish that out? Or you just say, you know what? The Bills were winning, so did they give the win? I don't think so. Do you give each of them a tie? I don't think anyone would really argue with that if you just do a draw, or you just say that game doesn't exist on the record books. As far as wins and losses goes, any stats accrued would keep, I guess. And then, it's just no one wins, no one loses. And then you just kind of have to make do with what you got. I don't know. Certainly makes the AFC playoff picture very curious and muddled and murky. But I assume, much like they did on Monday night, they'll talk with both organizations, they'll talk with both coaches, and they'll figure it out, So I don't know that we need to lose any sleep over it. I think if we're losing any sleep, it's over Demar Hamlin. And it was just little things here and there that make you think he's gonna pull through this. Yeah. So that felt like I probably should address that at the top. As for the Giants, I drove down to South Carolina overnight on Friday the 23rd. Was able to take a quick nap before the 1:00 game against the Vikings on Saturday, Christmas Eve. For whatever reason, I thought that there was going to be similar to the previous weekend where there was just like 3 Saturday games. And so the Giants Vikings was the 1:00, and then there would be a 4:00, and no, that wasn't it at all. All the games were on Saturday, and then there were just the 3 on Sunday. So, being down in South Carolina, Giants, Vikings, New York, Minnesota was not on the broadcast map for South Carolina. I think they had Panthers, Lions. I think the Panthers won, which is, the Panthers are a huge, tremendous story. And it was like, part of me was, even though I had a future on the Bucs winning the NFC South, part of me really wanted the Panthers to win. And because that's such a crazy story. Like, you cut your starting quarterback, Baker Mayfield, who you signed or traded for. You trade your number 1 player, Christian McCaffrey. You fire a coach, Matt Rule, and you end up winning. You just go on a pretty successive tear there. And so that would have been a cool story, as opposed to the Bucs, who have really disappointed across the board for the whole season. I don't think anyone had them going 7-9, or is it 7-9 or 8-8 and winning the division? Like, that just was not on anyone's radar. So, and it's just so fitting that Mike Evans goes off and has like 200 plus yards receiving and 3 touchdowns when I'm eliminated from fantasy football. It's like, where was that at any point during the regular season when I need you? No one cares about fantasy football. Got it. So Giants Vikings 1:00. I said in the previous Giants episode, that I kind of envisioned this game as our 2007 finale against the Patriots, which it turns out that maybe this Eagles game is that, although I don't think it should be, where on paper, the record, now the Vikings are not the 2007 Patriots, like we know that, but superior team in the record column that is the number 2 seed, was at the time a number 2 seed in the NFC, I believe. And then the Giants coming off a very emotional win against the Commanders, in which, you say what you will, like they pulled it out. I mean, they got a little help, but they pulled it out. And so it was just, I thought it was a good test, a good barometer to say, like, okay, if we play neck and neck, toe to toe, head to head with this team, and we make it close, and if we lose by like 3, I got a good feeling about us moving forward. And sure enough, despite, I mean, there are plenty of opportunities to win this game, and they let it slip through their fingers, but it's still encouraging. There's no such thing as a moral victory, but that felt like a moral victory. So very proud of how the team responded, getting down and coming right back in the fourth quarter. Obviously the Richie James drop sucks, but Graham Gano is still Mr. Automatic, and he picks up the slack. Justin Jefferson had 1 million catches, TJ Hawkinson 1 million catches. And, you can see how we miss Adoree Jackson and Xavier McKinney. But you say to yourself, okay, it took a 61-yard freaking field goal to beat us. We're the only team in the past, I don't even know how many years, of 60-plus yard field goal attempts that the opponent is 100%, 3 for 3, and we lose. I think it's 2 for 15, everyone else, but 3 for 3 against us. Sure, why not? So, I think it was just a good sign. It hurt. I was angry. I was mad. I was pissed. But ultimately, it was like, all right, I think if we meet these dudes again, we're gonna win. Like, I'm fairly confident we're gonna win in Minnesota if we have to face them again. And as it currently stands, it's looking that way. I think it's like a 92% probability that we're going to face the Vikings in Minnesota. And so coming off that loss, it's like, all right, you have to win against the Colts. Win and you're in. Basically, that's what this game was positioned as: win and you're in. And we, even though that first quarter was a bit rocky, and it was like, I can't believe we're losing 3-0 right now. The defense stepped up. Landon Collins pick 6, Kayvon Thibodeau sack, and Snow Angel Selly next to a convulsing Foles, which wasn't a great look, but he didn't know any better. And then Daniel Jones doing Daniel Jones things and rushing for 2 touchdowns, throwing for 2 touchdowns, doing the things that I was desperately wanting him to do in the first half of the season, even though we're winning in a lot of games where we almost lost or did lose. It was like, hey, don't run into sacks, move around the pocket, keep your eyes up and down the field, and you can make plays. And that's exactly what he's been doing over the stretch. He had the one play where he's forced out of the pocket to the right, getting tackled by DeForest Buckner, a big dude, okay, and is able to throw to Slayton for the first down. I think the first touchdown, well, there was 2 touchdowns, right? So the touchdown last week, there was a touchdown and a 2-point conversion against the Vikings, in which he, escapes the pocket and he rolls, buys time, and he hit Hodgins for a touchdown. He hit Bellinger for the 2-point conversion. And then this week against the Colts, he hits James for a touchdown. James, by the way, pretty decent move in the end zone there to get open and catch that touchdown. He peeled off like he was going to come right and back, and then he immediately stops on a dime and comes back and he catches the touchdown. So say what you will about Richie James, but he's kind of as close to Mr. Consistent as we've had over the past few games. It does feel like Daniel has a higher level of trust and confidence in him. I would say at times maybe a little too much. Like, okay, hey, Daniel, you got some other guys running routes. But, I think Richie James is good for 5 catches a game at least. And Isaiah Hodgins also seems to be a guy that he can rely on. And Darius Slayton always seems like, for the most part, most games, he's good for like a big catch and run. Didn't really get that in this Colts game. I think he only had 2 catches and he had a fumble, which is not great. But I think, he did have that big catch and run against Minnesota, big catch and run against Washington that put them into enemy territory and led to scoring opportunities. So it's impressive. I think, Daniel Jones gets a standing ovation when he comes out of the game late in the 4th in a blowout, and rightfully so. I think, I'm still not in love with him running the ball and just not getting down. Just get out of bounds, get down. You can't have this long, illustrious career and continue to take these hits. Like I guess he's like, what, 23, 24 right now, 25? I don't know. He's a young dude. And so those hits probably don't hurt as much come, Monday, Tuesday morning. But they will. And like, it'd just be nice to see him just get out of bounds and like, let's live for another down. Let's live for another day, because, this team runs on Duncan. If America runs on Duncan, this team runs on Daniel Jones, right? And we just won't win with Tyrod Taylor. I'm sorry. So I just would like to see him stay safe, especially on these design runs. But it does seem like they're, I don't know. I mean, even like when he does get down, he gets like the linebacker for the Colts, Okerke or whatever the hell his name is, who had like an unreal game, like 17 tackles. Oh, okay. Didn't think that was a real number in a regulation game. And he gave a forearm shiver to Daniel's head and, obviously picked up the penalty. But like, even when you go down and try to go down safe and easy, you still get rocked. So, I mean, I was a little uneasy going on the Colts game. I did think it was a lot of people saying, this is not a trap game. This is not a trap game. We're not looking past this. All our focus is on this game. And I was like, all right, but there's still, it just feels like, the Colts beat the Chiefs and they went up big against the Vikings against Minnesota, 33-0 a few weeks ago. So it's like, they have it within them to surprise you and to be competitive. So let's not let our foot off the gas. And we really didn't, which was good. So, but I love the evolution of the offense. I obviously I still have a little nitpicky bones to pick with Kafka and here and there, but it's very rare now. It does feel like he's opening up the offense more. He's not being as conservative as he was early on the season, getting guys in open space, letting them run with the ball, and the receivers. I mean, okay, maybe they're not what you envision, for your top 3 coming into the season, but they make plays. They catch the ball and they get north and south, and that's all that we can ask for. It's like catch the ball and get an extra 2 or 3 yards per catch. That's great. Isaiah Hodgins, has been a little bit of a godsend. Big body that can get in between the defender and the ball and make the tough catches. Even, and like I said, catch the ball and getting north. He did exactly that on the touchdown. Like, how many times have you seen that catch and the guy just like falls down or like gets tackled short of the goal line, and then we got to go 3 downs to get the touchdown? Like, that's just not this team. This team is picking up the extra yardage. Those extra 2-3 yards per play, they add up. And, we're like, I'm going to say something and maybe you'll believe it, because I wouldn't have believed it before this season. We're like the number 1 team in the red zone in terms of efficiency. It's crazy. So, very, I mean, you look at our team ranks, and if you just look at the team ranks, I could see why some people who don't watch the games are like, how the frig are the Giants in the playoffs? Like the 9-6-1. How are they 9-6-1? How? You look at their team ranks, and the only things that really stick out to you that would make us a playoff team are rushing yards per game and the takeaway differential, not giving the ball away, and then the combination of Saquon and Daniel running amok. So those are the two things that really have stood out, I guess, from a number standpoint when you're looking at just the numbers. You watch the game though, and it's like great to have Xavier McKinney back. Weird turn of events because it was like he's probably out for the season, and then it's like I would have thought 1,000% that Adoree Jackson makes his return quicker than Xavier McKinney. I would have put money down on it, and it turns out X-Men gonna give it to you before Adoree gives it to you. So I he played something like 83% of the snaps. 7 combined tackles, pass breakup that probably should have been an interception if he has 2 fully functioning hands. I think that was the consensus there. But it's just another weapon. And if we get Adoree Jackson back for the playoffs and we go into Minnesota looked, I didn't watch the game, but 41-17 loss to the Packers. I mean, the Packers are red hot. And, if you're going by probability and statistics, it looks like, Packers win and they're in. They get the 7th seed, and then they get to travel to probably San Francisco, where who knows what happens there. I think if the 49ers play almost any other of those, the Lions or the Seahawks, that's like, I mean, you can put the W in ink, no pencil needed. With the Packers, it feels kind of different. It's like, oh boy. I don't know. Packers-Niners is always going to be a good game, and who knows what Rodgers has up his sleeve. I mean, it's just crazy to think that they're in a spot to get to make the playoffs and to do some damage. So, I was I just we're getting right at the right time. I think I had just about lost all hope when we tied Washington. I was like, that was a must-win game that you had to win, and now we're in such a precarious predicament. And then to come that second Washington game really turned the tides, and I think getting all these guys back healthy. Do you want to risk it for the biscuit against the Eagles? What's the reward here? And I guess the same thing was said in 2007 when we're going up against the undefeated Patriots. But I think in that game, I was more apt to say, hell yeah, let's just go for it. Like, no one thought we would be here. I know we have a playoff clinched, but this will be a good test to see, like, are we really playoff ready? And talk to anyone, fans, players, coaches, they all said it was the right move because that was the game that gave them the confidence to say, okay, we can hang with the big boys. And then they just not steamrolled, but they were able to take that morale boost and take it on the road and take it to the Super Bowl for the rematch. So a little bit different case here where it's like we're going to play our starters against Philly, who needs to win to keep that 1 seed. And if we win, Philly's not the 1 seed and possibly is the 5 seed and goes to Tampa, maybe loses to Tampa. I don't know. I don't think they lose to Tampa in Tampa. I mean, maybe Brady has another gear. Maybe now Mike Evans has come to Jesus moment and is like a reawakening, a rebirth of sorts, but I just don't see it. So, and I don't know, will Jalen Hurts play? Do you want to rush him back only to get hurt and then miss the playoff game? Or do you want to give him another extra, because I just don't see the Giants playing their starters. I think, can you imagine we play our starters, Jones gets hurt, or Barkley gets hurt, or Leo gets hurt, or Dexter gets hurt, Kayvon gets hurt. Like, someone gets hurt in a game that doesn't affect their playoff seeding at all. I think we had good vibes going on right now. And we already feel pretty good about our chances against Minnesota in Minnesota. I don't know. I mean, it would be nice to ruin Philadelphia's game plan, and ruin their home field advantage throughout the playoffs. I think that would be pretty sweet. But at what cost? Like if the Eagles lose, Cowboys win, then the Cowboys they wouldn't get the 1 seed, right? No. Would it just be if the 49ers and Vikings win, they just move up a slot? I don't know. To me, it's like, I think Big Blue VCR said it's comparable to 2008, where we had already made the playoffs. It was the last game against the Vikings. We started the starters and they played for like a half. And then they came out in the second half and we still won. But that was against the Vikings team that I think was not a playoff team and wasn't really playing for anything. The Eagles are playing, I believe, for the number 1 seed and home field advantage. So, I mean, 2008, we got the home field advantage. We lost in a friggin' divisional round. So, is it worth it? Let me work it. Put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it. So, I vote no. I'd say let's get Tyrod Taylor some reps. Let's get Matt Breida some reps. I think the O-line, maybe you don't start Gates. Maybe you see what you got in Tyree Phillips. Maybe Evan Neal does need the reps. Maybe I don't mind starting Feliciano at center. But yeah, you start to get some guys some reps. And I think those guys who don't normally get the reps would be fucking pumped. And would be like, yeah, let's take it to them. Let's try let's see if we can upset the Eagles, on the road, and when we least expect it. I mean, the Philadelphia is favored by like 2 scores, 14 points, something like that. So, I just you kind of think that you're probably going to face, like, if all goes well, you're probably going to face Philly a third time, or you would hope to face Philly a third time, right, in Philadelphia. So do you really want to empty the chamber, if you will, against them in a season finale where it doesn't really affect your standing? I don't think so. That said, say you're like, you know what, screw it. We took a straw poll. We took a survey amongst the Giants players, and they're like, let's do this thing. We feel really good about our chances, and wouldn't it feel great to do it on their turf? And you go in and you beat them, and then you take that bravado, that swag, and ride that wave through the playoffs like you did in 2007. Risky, but I don't know. I just think we're such a different team when healthy. You saw it when Saquon's just dinged and banged up and bruised and battered, running timid. When even Jones was a little banged up, like we can't unload the arsenal. We don't have our full arsenal, our full artillery ready to go. And on the defensive side of the ball, like when Leo's out, it's bad news bears. Or, when Aziz is not in the mix, like it's just, we need all hands on deck in order to be, in order to win, really. So, especially against a division rival, hated division rival, who knows what kind of shenanigans they'll be up to win this game, and what kind of parlor tricks they'll be pulling. So it's like, I'd rather not, I think New England came in and they were undefeated, and so they wanted to win to stay undefeated, because that's quite the accomplishment. And I don't think they had a thought in a million years that they would face the Giants in the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, it's like the Eagles are like, let's not lose ground here. So my vote is for anyone that is even remotely injured or has an injury history or is coming back from injury. It's like they don't see the field at all. They don't even dress. And then let's make the most of, let's see what we got depth-wise, And, my prediction heading into the season was 10-7. When the schedule first came out, Okay, the day it came out, instant reaction, I said 10-7. We're 9-6-1. I don't think we're going to beat the Eagles, especially with our backup. So 9-7-1. So it's like we probably should have won the Washington game. We're like basically 10-7. So I was basically right. But then as training camp unfolded, and we saw the issues with Daniel Jones and with Kenny Golladay and blah blah blah, Kadarius Toney, and we saw the problems with the offense, and it was like, I don't think they're going to win a single game. That came out of my mouth. It turns out it was just Brian Daboll testing Daniel Jones. That's what came out, and I'm glad that he saved that until the time that we clinched the playoff berth. But he basically dialed up the worst possible plays against the best possible defenses, to really put DJ in the most awful situation possible to test his mental fortitude, tenacity, all that good stuff. And, I guess we can all say that he passed with flying colors. So, Dabes, you son of a gun, giving me a heart attack before the season started. But it paid off because it's like that eventually got Jones the vote of confidence for Jones. Is what the proof is in the pudding. And he said to himself, all right, I got my guy. So I know everyone's telling me he's the guy, but I need to see it to believe it. And he needs to prove it to me. And he did in training camp. And that's why, all those reports coming out like the Giants look awful and their offense is atrocious and da-da-da. It's like, well, it's because Daboll was purposely doing that to see what he had in his quarterback. And it turns out he had the right stuff. So that's what really threw me off heading into the season, and what ultimately changed my prediction. I said I wouldn't be surprised if we go winless, and I held to that, about halfway to 3/4 through that Titans game, because it was like, oh my God, I can't believe we're gonna go through this kind of crap again. And then it all turned on a dime with that 2-point attempt. Whoa, unreal. So as it stands, thank God for the AFC South. We're 4-0 against the AFC South, 2-2 against the NFC North. That loss against the Lions was just like, disgusting. And then the loss to the Vikings was, it was tough, but winnable. 1-3-1 against the NFC East. And I don't think I've ever seen a New York Giants playoff team with that piss poor division record. But again, the NFC East had the highest winning percentage of any division. So you're going against the cream of the crop. The Eagles are the 1 seed. The Cowboys probably, if you didn't have to do this weird divisional ranking bullshit, would probably be number 2 or 3 behind the Niners, I would say. I'd put Niners 2, Cowboys 3. And then you have the Commanders, who that got really hot. And who knows if they continued to start Taylor Heineke and not Carson Wentz, how their season would have turned out differently. I think there's something else going on there with Snyder or contracts, or there's some tomfoolery going on in the DMV area that they're allowing that to happen. Just like, it's just so clear as day to anyone who watches football. Like, you have a better chance of winning with Taylor Heineke. Probably should have beat the Giants in that second game. And so I don't know. Very weird. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot down the stretch, but still, they were the hottest team in football for like 6-7 weeks. 1-0 against the AFC North, 1-0 against the NFC South, and then 0-1 against the NFC West. I have a good feeling that if we were to play either the Lions or the Seahawks again, that we'd win. And it could be anywhere. In Detroit, in Seattle, we would win. That's where my confidence level is at right now. Our NFC record was 4-6-1, which is the worst amongst playoff teams. Again, a lot of that has to do with just a hellish division. And then our AFC record is 5-0, tied for the best among playoff teams. So you win some, you lose some, but it's just interesting, because I've always thought, well, we have to win division games and we have to win conference games in order to make the playoffs. And I was like, well, no, actually, we just dominate the other conference, and then we can secure a spot. So we got Cowboys, Commanders, Niners, Cards, Vikings, Bears. those are the three. And they have Lions, Packers, and then Seahawks, Rams are really the 5 big games that you're going to keep an eye on in Week 18. I think the Commanders come out just absolutely lifeless against the Cowboys, and they get smoked. So the Cowboys get the win there. And then the Niners beat the Cards. Obviously, Vikings beat the Bears. It would be pretty funny if the Bears just decide to mess around and get a W. So if that goes as planned, Cowboys win, Niners win, Vikings win, and Eagles win. So it pretty much would stay the same 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 through 5. If the Eagles lose, oh Nelly, then things get interesting. I don't know how that. I haven't shaken that out yet, but I would have to think that if the Cowboys win, Eagles lose, would it be Cowboys get the 1 seed over the Niners and Vikings? Because then they beat the Vikings? Yes. Did they play the 49ers? No. Did they have a better conference record? Maybe. So I think it would be Cowboys 1, Niners 2, Vikings 3, and then you have Bucks 4, Eagles 5. Falling from 1 to 5. Yikes. So, yeah, I think Philly's going to... I would think that Philly would bust out the big guns. So it's just the 7 seed that's completely up in the air. You have the Seahawks, Lions, Packers, Lions face off. Green Bay wins, they're in. They're playing in Green Bay. It just feels like they have so much goddamn momentum, and they have the Aaron Rodgers ayahuasca fueled machine pumping full steam ahead, all cylinders go. So like I would think that the Packers get that 7 seed. But if the Lions beat the Packers and the Seahawks tie the Rams, I believe the Lions get the 7 seed. If the Lions beat or tie the Packers and the Seahawks lose to the Rams, Lions get the 7 seed. The Lions tie the Packers, Seahawks tie the Rams, and the Cowboys lose the Commanders. Weird one. I think they get in. And then for the Seahawks, they have to beat the Rams and the Packers have to lose or tie the Lions. Or if the Seahawks tie the Rams and the Lions tie the Packers and the Commanders lose or tie the Cowboys, the Seahawks get the 7 seed. It's crazy that the Seahawks, you talk about, like, there was a point where the Seahawks and Giants, that was like the biggest game, about halfway through the season. And it looked like the Seahawks, had a ton going for them. And then it just kind of, the wheels fell off there a little bit. So I'm going to say Packers get the 7 seed, which means they go to San Francisco, play the 49ers. And I don't know that the Niners win that. I don't know. Giants go to the Vikings in Minnesota. Cowboys go to the Bucks in Tampa. Eagles get the bye. So I think so. The Giants, if they beat Minnesota in Minnesota, which I think is very possible, they would then go to Philly and play the Eagles. And then the Cowboys, people are saying the Cowboys have trouble with the Bucks because of that week 1 loss, 19-3. I think this is a way different Bucks team than week 1, but then again, I've heard that they've had a lot of people out due to injury and they're getting a lot of people back from injury, particularly some offensive linemen. So maybe the run game comes back to form, and they're able to be more balanced on offense. And, because I think the defense is, other than I think it was like maybe 1 or 2 games, the defense seemed like they had their other ducks in a row. So I don't know. The Bucks just seem like they're so, ugh. So I as much as I would love to see the Cowboys lose again to the Bucks, I think they do edge out Tampa. So I think the Cowboys go to San Francisco and play the Niners. Or they could host the Packers, dude. Jesus. So I think the conference championship, say the Giants going into Philly and beating the Eagles in the divisional round would be such sweet revenge for when the Eagles came in January 2009 and beat us in the Meadowlands when we had that dynamo team in 2008. I think that would be so fitting. Nice sweet revenge there. So the conference championship, I mean, you're looking at, I mean, if the Packers have to go to Dallas and play the Cowboys, I wouldn't be shocked if the friggin' Packers beat the Cowboys in Dallas. I just like, it's crazy. I know it's crazy. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Packers just go on a frickin' run and beat the Niners in San Fran and beat the Cowboys in Dallas. They already beat them once in Green Bay, different situation in Dallas, but if that were the case, you could see, I mean, the Giants could host the NFC Championship. That's an actual thing that could happen. Because if the Packers go into San Francisco, beat the 49ers, and then they go, if they beat the 49ers, then they would go to Philadelphia. My apologies. They would go to Philadelphia and play the Eagles. And then the Giants would end up going to Dallas and playing the Cowboys, which that would be interesting as well. And then if the chips fall the right way, you could see the Packers going to the Meadowlands for the NFC Conference Championship. Whoa, that's a little weird to think about. I get giddy thinking about that, but odds are probably not. Would be cool though. So, yeah, there was a report leaked before the game that there are talks to extend Daniel Jones, or to offer Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley contracts. I would love for that to happen, because my biggest fear heading into the season was we're not going to surround Barkley with the kind of coaching talent and the personnel players on the field to really give him the opportunity to succeed. It's like, we're going to give him another shit offensive line. And he's going to get stuffed 2 yards before, like as soon as he touches the ball, he's getting tackled. Like, and that's the final year of his contract. Like, is that a fair shake for the guy? No. So it's good to see that we came up with both a game plan that suited our personnel to allow him to bust out and to show off what he's got. Shake what his mother gave him. And so I would love to see us lock him up for another 5 years. I'd love to see us lock up Daniel Jones for another 5 years. And, you got to think in those 5 years that maybe Kafka doesn't last because he's such a hot commodity. Maybe he does go somewhere else for more money, which would stink. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, that duo has proven enough to me. Despite some real wacky moves, like the Kenny Galladay thing is still blowing my mind. I can't wrap my head around it. I can't understand it. It just feels like there's and it's, I don't know when it's going to come out. Maybe it'll come out in a tell-all, like Brian Daboll's tell-all after he's won like 3 or 4 Super Bowls, or 2 Super Bowls. I'd be cool with that. If he comes out in his tell-all, like when, years after he retires from the game of football and he's like a Hall of Fame candidate, he comes out with a tell-all and he says, you know what? In 2022, Kenny Galladay called me a cracker. And that guy cannot see the field because of that. We will not have hate in the clubhouse. Just something. End racism, Kenny Galladay. No, I'm dying to know what is the problem there. And I understand, like someone said, well, 10 targets, 4 drops. There's your story. And it's like, I mean, how many top receivers with humongous contracts have shitty catch rates? There are a lot of top receivers that just have like 53% catch rate, ton of targets, but like they just can't connect or they drop the ball. And it's just like, you put up with it because of the plays that they do make. And it just feels like 10 is 10 enough of a sample size for you to say, oh yeah, you're never seeing the field again. So I saw someone else tweet like, Kenny Galladay is our secret weapon for the playoffs. He is weapon X. This whole time we've been hiding him in plain sight. And we've been downplaying him and saying, he's got this hip thing. He doesn't know the playbook. He's dropping balls. And then like, watch we come out. Like, wouldn't that be hilarious if like he just goes like 15 targets a game, 10 catches a game, 100 yards a game, touchdown a game through on a historic playoff run? That would be hilarious. Not going to happen, but dreamers dream, you have to dream big. So that's basically it for this week in Giants football. Thank you so much for listening. Positive vibes and thoughts for Demar Hamlin. It's looking good. Don't want to jinx anything, knock on wood, but I think he's going to pull out of this, and it's going to be just it already is a huge rallying cry for the Bills. I think that once they have time to process, once they know and understand that he's going to be all right, then they're going to pull together, and this is going to be like, win one for the Gipper times a million, dude. Like, so if the Bills were the Chiefs, you have no shot. The Bengals, maybe it ends up being Bills Bengals in the AFC Conference Championship, because I don't know how the Chiefs compete with what the Bills have on their side at this point. All the emotion and surging through their bodies as they go out there and try to win for their brother. That's just like that's I don't know how you compete with that. So, and the Chiefs haven't looked that dominant. They win games, but much like the Vikings, it's like they're winning, but it's not like, this is not like convincing anyone that they are going to go on to some great things. But then again, I guess you could say the same thing about the Giants, where it's like, we're not winning hands down. We're getting kind of fortunate, getting kind of lucky here and there, but sometimes that's all you need. So let's get a little bit more lucky as we set our sights on Minnesota. Those Vikings, I don't want to say frauds, but they are ripe for the picking. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you had a Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Festivus, and a Happy New Year. And we'll talk to you next week once the dust is settled and the picture has become crystal clear for the NFC playoffs. I don't know about the AFC playoffs, but the NFC playoffs. All right. Thanks so much. Talk soon. Adios, muchachos.